I've shared a lot of stories with you guys, but this one's a little bit harder for me to share because I really care about this one. It's raw. It happened last night, and I'm really embarrassed. You might be asking, what do you mean? You shared the most embarrassing things that any human on the internet's ever shared. Yes, but there are things that we can tell our friends, our people, that are conventionally very embarrassing, but if enough time has passed and we don't care too much about the topic, it's not that hard. This one for me is tough, but I just wanted to get it off my chest, and I assume there's at least one kid out there who's gone through something similar. There's no lesson to today's story. Let me tell you the story of how I cried myself to sleep last night. And I'm going to try one thing. I'm going to try in this whole time to not make fun of myself, because it's a huge defense mechanism for me when I say something that's, I don't like about myself, that I resent. I'll acknowledge how cringe it is, or how embarrassing, or how pathetic, or how much of a beta male I am. But this time I just want to tell it, very much from the heart and feel through it. Because recently I realized that, I used a lot of the therapy and the self-improvement, the neuroscience stuff as a crutch to not feel through a lot of pain in my life. And this is a recent one, and I want to feel through it. So what's a better way than, saying it to the world. So as you guys know, 2 months ago, I was broken up with by this girl who I never thought I would love. When I first met her, it was actually, she was my rebound relationship after this huge, crazy trauma bond I had with this chick for a month that I was like, it was my start of my demon arc, the start of my self-improvement journey. And I met this one girl. I'm not going to share her name or who she is or whatever, but on our first date, I remember that night, I was trying to play the cool guy, use every line that I've ever learned of how to pick up girls. And she saw through all that shit. And I remember at night I was in so much pain because I just went through, getting cheated on by the last chick who I was like in love with, blah blah blah. And I just spilt it all out. And I felt this feeling that I've never felt before. Like I felt held. I felt truly cared for. Like somebody, even though maybe didn't empathize with my pain, maybe they've never felt it, but they cared a lot, and they were a complete stranger. And I remember she actually never thought we were gonna have a second date. She thought I was just there for like one for like one night. But yeah, like this girl wasn't really my type, and we didn't have too many things crazy in common. And I remember every single time I went over to her place, this was after the demon arc breakup, like right after. And in that relationship, I remember that girl, I would always, like, I have a lot of intimacy issues. So I would, I crave intimacy, and that girl wouldn't give me that much. And a defense mechanism I built up was to pretend I didn't want intimacy. And this girl saw through it. And I remember so many times. She would give me a hug, and I would push her away, and secretly it's all I wanted, right? Fast forward, we stop seeing each other. My mental health's not very good, and we start seeing each other again after I, start the whole self improvement thing and just become a happier person. The whole beginning of our second run or real relationship is me truly happy. At the peak of my career, I just benched 4 plates. But I had a lot of like darkness and demons and things in my life that I really pushed down because I was in the stage 1 of the self-improvement, like all the red pill stuff. And I remember, even though me and her weren't each other's ideal person, like it just felt like home. It really felt like the type of love that I've never had in my life. And I've had a lot of love in my life, but this was the healthiest I've ever had. And it scared me for a long time, and I pushed it away, and eventually it didn't scare me, and it was pretty beautiful. I remember on our first vacation, she told me she loved me, and it scared the fuck out of me because I love this person to death. And I had all these guards up in the beginning. And through my own journey in life, while I was with her, I decided that I didn't want to play this character of a human anymore. Metaphorically and, I guess, physically on camera. And all the stuff that I was holding just started to come up. And this was the first person in my life, like even like more than my parents, that I've ever shown a very vulnerable, real side of me. Now, of course, you guys have seen me break down and cry a lot about a lot of things, but even you guys haven't seen me, when I'm angry or like when I'm terrified. And this person saw it all. And she slowly rewrote the narrative in my mind that all women will leave and all women will abandon me and all women are not to be trusted. And she taught me what real healthy love was like, and I taught her. Now it was pretty beautiful. And I really did everything I could for this woman. We'd go out 1 or 2 times a week. We'd experience life. We'd travel a little bit, take some trips. And I remember I'd always brag about how, we haven't been together too long. I've only known this girl for maybe a year, but she stuck with all my bullshit. Fast forward and things don't work out. I don't want to get into the details. And it really hurts. The day that it ended, I remember something came out of me that I haven't felt in a long time, since I was a little kid. And it was that little kid version of me. I just couldn't think logically. I couldn't think of anything. And I remember I was driving my car, just broke down screaming and crying like a little baby. It was a lot of pain. And it emotionally reminded me of every time in my life I felt hurt or abandoned or unwanted or unloved. And then we, in my previous breakup, I remember, that person ghosted me, and I never really got any closure, even though I pretty much knew what happened. But this time, I remember she, even though it wasn't mutual, she offered to talk about things and help each other get closure, and we did. I went against all the red pill ideology that I have in my head, and we had 2 last conversations, and it was painful. It did help. It was therapeutic. And slowly I started to, learn to live by myself. Truly by myself. Because for so long, I've never been okay being by myself. Even since I was born, I've always had people around me, or I used, drugs or people to cope. And I think the breakup taught me that with all these abandonment and intimacy issues I have, it's time to learn to truly be peaceful by myself. Because a lot of people I know can do it, and I really admire that. So I did a lot of things where I'd spend whole days by myself and, have no distractions, and I started preaching it to people, and I started healing. I had my ups and downs, and I started to accept where I was. I started to be okay that I was sad. I started to be okay that I was grieving. I started to be okay that I'm very heartbroken. And by accepting it, it helped it not have such a weight on me. Until last week, I don't even want to continue with the story, man. It's just getting too real. It's not a big deal. I got a text from her after 2 months, and she asked if I was okay, how I was doing, and it was really, really painful. And this was just 2 months ago. She talked about how, we should still keep up, and maybe we should still follow each other online, and one day, maybe even be friends. I don't really believe in that shit, right? But, it was sad to see that after she said that, a couple weeks later, it was hit with the unfollow. But no. And then just as I was, letting this person go from my life and not having that deep pain inside anymore and starting to accept it, I received this text. And I remember the moment, the first thing that comes up is anger. So angry. I remember running around the room, fucking, just saying some crazy shit, making some terribly fucked jokes. It was a visceral reaction in my body. It felt like you're a kid having a temper tantrum. And I started, all this energy just came. I was so tired throughout the day until that happened. It was like someone shot me with adrenaline. And all I wanted to do was work out, but it was fucking rest day. The next day was rest day too, so I had to wait a whole... God damn, that sucks. And I was really angry at her at first. I was like, you're so selfish. Why would you ask if I'm okay? Just let me be. Just let me be in peace. Don't give me this. What do you want? And there's another part, do you want me back? What is this? You made your mistake, didn't you? I knew you would come to the realization you made a mistake. And then there was this one other part that I was too scared to believe was there. And it was, what if it wasn't a mistake and she's just reaching out to be nice, and she doesn't want you back. And even worse, to her, it's not this big deal. If you send that text, there'd be no reaction. She's moved on. And that hurt a lot, you know? I just waited a whole day to answer. I was like, oh, I'm good. How are you? And then I had the craziest workout of my life. Like, absolutely fucking insane. And I come last night. We got into a little text conversation. I don't remember what she asked me. I think she said something like I just wanted to know that you're doing okay and like blah blah blah. But just like something set me off. I remember it was like 12 at night, and it was like I felt like a little baby whose parents didn't want them, whose parents left them on the doorstep of a stranger's house and came back just to check if they were cold, and the kid knew that the parents were going to leave again. I was like, you know, as you guys see, I tear up, I cry a lot, but I was bawling my eyes out. And as I'm like texting her back, it's like all I wanted was her reassurance. And I remember her asking like, are you okay? I just want to know you're okay. And I just couldn't even lie. And I remember I said one thing that just made me and I said like, I told her I failed a lot recently. And it just all hit me at once that, you know, like my career's failing. I just lost the first healthy love that I felt. I have a lot of, you know, damage and pain and sadness and weakness and sorrow in my life. And I felt very small. You know, I felt very weak. I felt like she was right for leaving because I am a loser. And maybe I'll never be good enough. And all I wanted was to have her in person because she was the only person that could not judge me and take care of me when I felt like that and understand. But I knew that wasn't healthy. So it's just an interesting dynamic to have her there, but not there at the same time. And then I remember one thing that hurt a lot was she asked, like, do you want me to keep reaching out? And I had to be honest. I was like, yeah. I was like, I want it so bad, but like we both know it's not good. We shouldn't do it. So it hurt a lot to have to make that decision. yeah, that was a pretty low moment for me. I felt very weak. And I remember as I was looking up at the ceiling, just like tears dripping from my eyes, I just kept saying, I'm sorry. I don't know who I was saying I'm sorry to. But I live my life with a lot of, with a lot of shame, you know? I, I truly don't feel like I'm good enough most of the time, and it takes a lot of mental work for me to feel like I am. And I'm trying. You know, I remember I told her that. I told her that I'm just trying. Yeah, and I'm really trying, guys. Yeah. And you know, and I called my best friend that night and he really saved me. It was like the first time I ever called somebody when I was going through something. I just couldn't deal with it. I felt really, really weak, and yeah, I think the last thing she said to me was she said that she believes in me, that she's always believed in me, and that one day people will see the good that I do. And that was nice. That was very nice. So yeah, uh, I hope to face these things now, because they're there. You know, loss and heartbreak and shame and pain is real and it's there. And I don't want to be the guy on the internet who pretends that I'm cooler than I am and calls the people who watches his videos losers for not being as cool as him. Yeah. Just wanted to share that because I know some people go through a lot worse, or some people go through stuff, and I wanted to, someone to know that, yeah, I think a lot of us, all of us go through something, big or small. To you, it's big. And at the end of the day, you only have yourself, so you should honor what's important to you. Yeah, and I think, I hope you can find a form of, like therapy that I have. Like talking to the camera makes me, feels like I just dumped it out and it's there. Yeah. The feeling of feeling like a small, weak, scared little boy is something that I ran away from for so long. And I did a lot of things in my life to cover it up. Now I'm realizing that scared little boy is me. And there's no point in running away from him, or pushing him down, or hiding him. I think I just gotta learn to love him. Yeah. Okay. That's the story. Peace. I hope one day I'll look back at all the stuff going on right now and it will be a cool part of a come up story. I love you guys. Bye.